of American Car Classics Radio Podcast. I am Kenny Schofield. I'm here with Chris Couch. And this is Jake Fairchild, everybody. Jake, it's great to see you, man. It's been a while.
Buddy. Yes, it has.
We've been sitting here shooting the stuff for a little while. We've been getting warmed up on the conversation end of this. And Jake and I, we go back several years. I'm a shop owner, Dolphin Auto, and you happen to work for Jasper Engines and Transmissions.
Jasper Engines, yes.
How long you been with them?
I'm going on almost 6 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's changed a lot, hasn't it?
Quite a bit. I used it when I owned my shop. I had my shop for 10 years.
Yeah, up in Rockledge?
Titusville, yeah. And used them. I was an installer for them for quite a few years, actually 7 out of the 10 years. And, when I sold my shop and got out of the business, didn't know what I was going to do, said nothing with automotive, nothing. And my rep, which was Shelby, says, hey, why don't you come work for Jasper?
7 foot tall, redhead, loved him.
Shelby's a great guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, I don't want to do that. And so...
and he's serious. He's dead serious.
No, he did. And then they hooked me, and I started the job, and I cannot see myself anywhere else.
Did you go out to Jasper, Indiana?
I did.
During the hiring process?
I did.
For training?
Yeah. So there's a 2-week training process. They take you out there.
What do you do?
I am actually a field representative for Jasper.
Okay.
So I was a district manager at one point where I was overseeing 2 branches, one in Orlando, one in Jacksonville.
Okay.
I just demoted myself because I'm actually going to the factory to work. So a little bit of a promotion. I'm going to what's called new product development.
Okay.
And what I'll be doing is pretty much before we release a product, we go through it in different phases. We do what's called fit, form, and function, and then we dyno test them. Every part and piece is mic'd, blueprinted, checked, and basically we look for inherited flaws. We design that to better the product. So that's going to be my job, is to go through there and
that's the whole thing about Jasper. Look, Jasper, I get calls at Dolphin Auto, and hey, we want to put an engine in, and the first thing I do is get a quote from Jasper.
Absolutely.
And they're like, man, can you do any better?
Yeah. We're not for everybody. We know that.
But the disappointing thing is that you want to say, yeah, there's probably another option I can do or something, but you lose in that. It's you get a shiny new car, and there's a shiny new car, or there's holy cow.
Yeah.
And Jasper is the holy cow, because you guys do so much more than rebuild an engine. We're even engine rebuilders.
Basically, we're reverse engineering what the vehicle was, making it a better product, giving it a better warranty, and providing a superior product for a vehicle.
You go looking for the inherited issue that
Correct.
OEM left it as,
Correct.
and then you try to make better.
Correct.
We started talking a lot before miking up about
Elitech.
No, transmissions, the 80s and 90s.
The 6L80, 6L80, 6L90, yeah.
And that they've got issues like many things do from the word go.
Certainly. They did from the beginning. There was a lot of chattering issues with out of the torque converter, a lot of premature wear that happens. In our research and development in Jasper, what we did was we found that had to do a lot with the programming, because that thing locks up from 8 miles an hour up to 60 miles an hour.
Why would something lock up at 8? And there's a design flaw?
Explain the lockup. What do you mean by lock up?
Your torque converter is locking up.
Okay.
So basically it's going in, it goes into lockup to basically go into your next gear.
Creating a more solid place. Where torque converter, it moves easily, but once it locks up,
rotation,
it's
and then they start going together.
Right. And it goes into the next gear.
Because the engine RPM spins a lot faster than what a transmission's RPM spin at, until you get that lockup, and then you're in a true drive mode. Is that probably
correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they're locking up.
They're locking up at 8 miles an hour up to 60.
Yeah.
So on your older style, your 4-speed, your 4L60, your
700 R4,
700 R4, your 5R110s and your Fords, things like that. Those things would lock up in 4th and 5th gear. You never had lockup on the older vehicles at early stages.
But we also never had issues with torque converters. And here again, as a owner of Dolphin Auto, we are seeing a lot of torque converter issues.
You are. There's a lot
more demand on them.
Correct. But there's a lot more that goes into that as well. Okay. So, the reason for the lockup is for every manufacturer out there is trying to hit what's called a CAFE standard. They're trying to get the best fuel economy, trying to meet EPA standards. So the best thing that they're doing is, hey, let's lower the RPMs. So if we can lower the RPMs, best way to lower the RPM is go into lockup.
That's right.
Right. So they started locking these things up at lower speeds. Unfortunately, you go down the road here, you hit 5 stoplights, that thing is locked up at least 15 to 20 times. So think about the wear that goes onto that, that torque converter versus if it was just locking up in 2 gears.
Now, you were saying earlier, some transmissions would typically be good for 200,000 miles.
Correct.
And now that's like half that.
It is, because you're doing a lot more wear. You're giving that transmission almost double the wear that of the lifespan of that transmission.
So what about flushing a transmission like an engine? I mean, we do engine oils at 5,000 miles, 7,500 miles.
I've never been an advocate for flushing.
See,
I would do a drain and fill.
Well, right. Drain and fill is much better. Flushing, you wash the material away that's vital to the operation of a transmission.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a prior shop owner and a current shop owner and a consumer. I always have this question. Should a lot of people even say, should I even change my transmission fluid?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They'll be like, I've had this truck for 80,000 miles, never changed it.
You changed it too late.
Yep.
Now is where we come into talking about, this company that says, I need a transmission flush. They're going to a 10-minute oil change and they're getting a flush done at 80,000 first time. And all of a sudden down the road,
they're having issues.
It's not going into
that fluid is holding those fibers that's holding those clutches together. So now you're taking that fluid out. Now you're putting brand new fluid in there. You don't have those fibers holding those clutches together.
You buy a used truck.
Yep.
Got 80,000 miles on it. What do you do?
If it's never been flushed, you drive it.
You don't know though.
So drain and fills.
So a drain and fill would be okay.
You do a drain and fill. Personally, I just bought a Mazda CX-9. I'm going up to Indiana. So I have a company car. It's like, hey, what am I going to do? Great deal on it.
All-wheel drive?
All-wheel drive.
Okay, beautiful.
Mazda CX-9 2019. It hit 80,000 miles. I got the Carfax on it. Everything's been done to it except for the transmission. So I was like, what do I do? Check the transmission fluid. It was a little burnt. I said, you know what? Let's just do a drain and fill. It's a sealed unit.
Yeah.
I put the additive. I got the Ford additive for it. I poured that in there. I took out, I think it took out 6.5 quarts. I filled it back up with 6.5 quarts with the additive. Things shifts amazing.
That's great.
Okay. Nice, clean fluid.
Yeah.
I never recommend flushes. Flushes were not designed. Number one, some of these, machines out nowadays, they flush at a really high rate. Some of your manufacturers, Chrysler is one of them. They use a paper type filter. What happens?
Tears it up.
It's gonna suck that filter right in. Ford was a little bit smarter. They use a screen type filter that's metal. You can flush those. However, just never been an advocate for flushing.
Yeah, Honda has an external paper canister.
Correct.
It's in a metal container, but it's paper right.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
and so high pressure flush does that. Although transmission's fluid is moving at a good rate.
Yeah.
It isn't under a high flow. It's pressure, but I mean pressure on transmission is relatively low on one end. Mm-hmm. It's higher on the other side,
correct,
on the inside. Mm-hmm. But past filtration. Much like an AC system works on high, low pressure type.
Yeah. You want to watch flushing. You never want to get past. You never want to flush it at no more than 25 to 30 psi. That can really do some damage to internals.
Yeah, I've never had a vehicle flushed.
Yeah. Just service is the best.
Yeah, I own the old BG flush machine, the DF5, which everybody had for many, many years. And I still use it on some older cars, but I can control my flow and keep it very, very low through pressure regulator.
That is it.
And do it less than 20 pounds.
So that's another thing. Some of these newer transmissions, they run through the cooler, which is through your radiator. That's how they cool that fluid.
Yep.
Transmission nowadays run at a very high temperature.
They do.
You got to have a fluid to combat that high temperature. That's why you're going to see LV, HP, ULV, ultra low viscosity.
Oh, for the wheels.
Yeah. Those types of things they have more detergents, more additives in them to condition that stuff and to withstand that high temperature. So, kind of like your synthetic, your conventional, your synthetic's always the best.
Deck 6, right.
Yep. A lot of that stuff is nowadays, it's a higher detergent type of transmission fluid.
No.
And so the reason that transmissions work with with detergents. Engines don't. Obviously, take an engine apart, it's filthy. You watch a transmission come apart with 300,000 miles on it, and it's just burnt fluid.
Yep.
Disc material. That's it. But
and everything's crystal clean inside.
isn't it? I mean, it is. There's no wash. They can't
Yeah,
maybe spray
yeah.
and brake clean, and then you're done.
That's
and then
your
it'd go
detergents.
right back to
Yeah.
rebuild.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So production, modifications on fluid has gone
Oh, it's been it's
so fast.
big time.
Have you guys seen the video? There's a video on YouTube about these guys. They took it. There was the exact same engine. It was a Honda engine or something like that. It was a car engine. And one had been run, I don't know, 50, 100,000 miles, whatever it was, full with always conventional. And the other one, same exact motor, had always been same amount of miles, always run through with synthetic oil. They tore them down, had them side by side. The difference was night and day. If I could find it on YouTube, I'll put a screenshot right here.
Okay.
But it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I'll go find it for the audience so you guys can see it. But it was really, really cool. I'll leave a link in the description as well. But the difference that
Synthetic was great.
so
Keeping
much
it
better.
At that and using
so
that.
much better.
Yeah.
So use synthetic. Absolutely. Use synthetic.
Yeah, there's a rule of thumb on engines that you were conventional that you want to switch to synthetic, that you can as long as it's got some lower miles. But if it's been red and conventional this whole time and you switch it, you might have some problems with it. Once you go from conventional to synthetic, you can never go back.
Yeah.
You sell the car, you have to let the owner know, hey, this is a synthetic car or a synthetic blend. At least, and that way you're doing it, because the molecules are very different. Much of it's where you different wear on items. You get a thicker oil with a bigger molecule that moves metal over time, it's like water on a rock. It changes.
So a lot of those, like your truck, your 85, that's going to take your straight 1040, fluid, oil, vehicle or engines back then had very, how do you put that? Lazier tolerances.
Much lazier.
Yeah. Nowadays, they're like zero tolerance.
Right. Nowadays, engines aren't using bearings.
Yes.
I mean, they don't.
Yeah, exactly. And they actually roll, like a cam actually rolls right on the journal of the head. There is no liner or anything. It's just rolling right on that.
But this is why we're getting so many more miles. And the big thing about that is friction is a killer of anything, whether it's life, traffic, or in your engine or transmission. Clutches are doing the work, and your lockup converter that's so electronic. In an engine, it's still a mechanical machine. It's an air pump doing its thing, but they have built it to where they are friction free, which keeps temperatures down.
Yes.
And gives that longevity on these engines. Because now, if you are maintaining an engine, you're going to get 300,000 or 400,000 miles out of them.
If it's maintained properly.
They're not doing the work anymore.
Correct.
It's the transmission is the load of a car.
Yep.
Their front wheel drive or their all wheel drive, the differentials are part of the transmission.
Really?
Yeah.
Now you're getting into these rear ends, the electric rear ends. They've got that little
E-lock,
the E-lock. They got the fluid up top, and then you've got a little differential down there, clutch fluids and everything else. It's all independent rear suspension, and all that stuff. Technology is just, and I'm not a dinosaur, but I'm old school. And as I was saying before the show, my certs, I became a master tech in like 1998. I did not recertify into the 20s. Not that I don't know the business, but I certainly don't know the extreme detail that one needs to know to be at that certified level anymore.
So like differentials, going to differentials is they're amazing. They used to be very simplistic. Pinion, bearing, side bearings, hub, and you're good to go, right?
Yeah.
Your ringing gear.
Right.
Nowadays you have an E-lock that has clutches in it, and it's got like a harness that comes around, and you open it up and what is this electronic stuff?
Yeah.
In the rear end.
Oh, yeah. It locks up electronically, whether it needs to be posi, non-posi, and slip, non-slip, depending on the road conditions, things of that nature.
Back in the day, we would take a rear end if we wanted to weld it. Go drag racing. You only had a one wheel peel car. You would take the cover off and you would weld the axle.
Oh yeah.
To your spline, and then you would have a posi rear end.
There you go.
But when you went to leave the track, chirp, 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 chirp,
Yeah.
chirp,
Yeah.
and her wheel would be skipping.
Yeah, because it couldn't turn.
Yeah,
it was
turn,
just
yeah.
one pivot. Yeah,
I love the smiles because we're knowing this from back in the day. And stuff,
I love it. I love it.
But differentials, and Jasper does this, differentials.
You guys do
absolutely.
differentials
not
as well?
just,
Oh,
not
yeah,
just
absolutely.
Jasper
Oh, wow.
engines or transmissions. This is differentials. Not only that, I mean,
We
you've got
do
a diesel
turbos.
program.
Yep, we do turbos, injectors, high pressure pumps. We now do after treatment products. We do what do they call them? Dosing nozzles. You're going to start seeing some of those Bosch dosing nozzles on some of your higher end diesels.
We just saw a reel. I showed you a reel today.
That was
Chris,
really cool, yeah.
That a gentleman was bench testing a diesel injector.
Yeah.
And he has a big pull handle and the 4 sprays.
Oh, yeah.
But he took a torch and he lit it so you could see the fire.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He pulled his hand up, and it was just amazing.
It was
when
like
he
a
got done, he
fire
said,
star.
This one works. But the amount of pressure behind
Oh,
this, we know the 7.3 was such a great workhorse for Ford.
Mm-hmm.
You get into the 6.0s and stuff that started progressing from this. They had a lot of issues and stuff, but they have a high pressure oil pump or fuel pump,
Mm-hmm.
and then a low pressure fuel pump. But the high pressure, man, these things now are a couple thousand.
Oh, a couple thousand?
Okay, I don't know.
No. Diesels will run at 40, 50,000 PSI.
Stainless steel
Oh, yeah.
fittings that have to be so tight the lines will break.
Holy.
You got to remember, a diesel is compression injection.
Yeah.
So a regular car is, a standard injection.
Yeah.
Compression injection, you're compressing that and you're bringing it up, and it's compressing all those molecules together, and that's how you get your.
Right, this is where we're going to bring Bill Hennon in from Diesel Pro.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
He's the best.
Oh, dude,
he's the best, and he's a character, and he's a great racer, and he'll be a great guest on. But you do business with him.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
yeah. Bill's a great guy.
Yeah, we trade tools back and forth and trade some jobs back and forth through referrals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a tremendous man. But he deals with this every day.
Oh, all day long.
His
yeah.
tools are totally different than mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's got sockets that, have curves to them. They're splined out. You got to take an IPR out of something. You got to socket this long and half of it's missing. You're like, what is this? An O2 socket? You're like, that's taking
A
an
lot of
IPR.
tools, yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
diesels, Chris, you have to lift the cab off the
Pull
truck
cab, yeah.
Yeah.
to work on head.
I see it on the internet all the time
Yeah.
now. People, almost all trucks
Cab
just
lift.
take the cab off.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to work on an engine now.
Because it's all right there.
Yeah.
Some people try to manipulate it, try to work on it inside. It's
You wait.
you can, but it's like why do you
You're
want to be
spending
blending
more
over?
time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
trying to avoid
Yeah.
taking the cab
Well,
off.
another thing that a lot of people don't understand is when you're working on a Ford like that, and you got to do diesel work. You would appreciate this. You see a lot of restorations. How many times have you lifted a body off a frame and looked at it and go, look at those cab
Mount
bushings?
bush, yeah.
They're rotted.
Absolutely.
Right. Think about a cab mount bushing. When it rots, what do you get? You get squeaks. You get rattles. You get
Pearls.
Yeah.
Pearl, she flexed when we picked her up, and
Yeah.
not just the frame, it's because her
Yep.
bushings are worn as well.
So when they're doing that and they lift it up, that gives them a chance to look at those body mounts as well. Hey, for another $600, let's go ahead and put some new body mounts in there. Now,
Easiest sell in the world. We're
now
there.
customers are going down the road going, oh my gosh, it's driving like a brand new truck.
Brand new truck. And
Yeah.
Ford has an issue with body mount
Oh,
bushings.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So-
So I gotta buy some body mount bushings for Pearl.
Yes,
Is that what
sir.
you're telling me?
Yeah, I've got several kits there. We all
well, it's
pull them
about
your
time.
thing.
85, buddy. Come
Yeah, I think it's about time. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's only been almost
Yeah.
40 years.
So Jasper, in the 6 years, I mean, they're a 100-year-old company.
on. Yes. Close. Let's see,
Well, I guess-
1942.
Yeah, so we had a 75th anniversary a couple years ago. didn't we?
82nd. 82nd.
Yeah, I remember doing the 75th or the 80th anniversary with
Yep.
you a couple years back or whatever. So 82 years old. This is a great company. They're
Yeah.
in Jasper, Indiana.
Indiana, yeah.
Where'd they start? How'd they do?
Jasper actually started with a gentleman named Alvin C. Ruxer. He worked at the Ford dealer. We had a shortage of engines in 1952 during World War II. We couldn't supply engines overseas for our tanks and our Willys, Jeeps, and things like that. Like, what are we going to do? He started recruiting guys that were coming back from the military that were 88 mics and, tank mechanics, things like that. And says, I can fix this.
Wow.
So he learned how to rebuild the engines. We got our first contract with the federal government rebuilding 52 flatheads. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's how our business was founded. We started it actually in the Ford dealer in a 12 by 20 wash bay with I believe like 4 or 5 guys, and started remanufacturing engines, and that turned into transmissions. Transmissions turned into other things, and so on and so forth. And now we're here 82 years later.
You went to the plant, and I haven't been. Mm-hmm. I know a few people have gone. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get out there.
Yeah.
But it's jaw dropping. It's impressive. It's not Laverne and Shirley where there's beer balls going around. And but it is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. So we used to have we way back when they used to have a belt. So get done with the product, it goes on the belt, it goes up, it goes all the way around the factory. Nowadays we work in a little bit more. We work smarter, not harder. So we work in pods now. So each pod is a contained unit. So tear down, assembly, and then final product, and then gets shipped out to a dyno, gets tested, things like that. So everything's done kind of in like a U shape.
What is a transmission dyno? I know what an engine dyno, and I know
it's called a dynamometer. Actually,
yes, right.
Yeah.
But and to not just do the dyno on a car like we're doing with Bryce Kumis Racing and stuff like this, where we're rear wheel horsepower and stuff like this. We have engine run stands, which is what you'd use on your engine.
Yep.
Dynos, but you're not testing horsepower to the rear, you're testing engine efficiency and correct operation.
Correct.
What's a transmission? How's that? You work into you don't hook to a motor.
No. Well, it's actually, they hook it up. There's a stand, hooks it up, got a converter, puts it in there. We use the converter with the transmission. It mates it. Usually have an electronic box on the side. It's manually shifted, goes through all the gears. Depends on if it's got range selector switches, things like that. Different transmissions are going to be on different stands, obviously, for electronics. But they're looking for shifting. We do what's called a data acquisitions test, and basically it's got to pass. It's either red or green.
Okay.
So
that's it.
It's got to pass. There is no in between. If it does not pass, it gets set aside and that gets reworked. If it's something simple, we will fix it. If it's not, it goes back to the assembly line, torn back down, and we just keep moving.
All right. Well, there's a word in our industry that we all hate to hear, and that's CVT.
Yes.
Jasper does not.
We do.
You do now.
We do offer CVTs for Hondas. We do not do them for Nissans, Hyundais. Some of the newer ones, we do not do those. We will probably not ever get into the CVT world.
What is CVT and why did it develop? And it's so not liked. I mean,
CVT is basically a big, huge band. Okay, think about a metal band with small little teeth. I'm talking thousands. Okay, you line them up, you put this band on, and then you put another band on it. That's all it runs. Okay, it's like a belt with pulleys. You're just running that around, almost like a centrifugal. Like on a go-kart.
Yeah, is it
they
constant?
expand?
Yeah,
yeah, and it never shifts. It just rolls. So that's why you never feel a shift in a CVT.
But they fail.
They do. The bands normally don't fail. Usually it's due to accumulators, valve body issues, programming, underpowered transmission on an overpowered vehicle.
And why is Jasper not getting into this? Is it
just not in the market for that? We tackle things that we know we're going to. We see a lot of niche for GM, Chrysler, Ford.
Where the market's at then.
Correct, yeah. When we stay busy with that. So
like anybody,
why put our eggs in that basket when we're staying busy with this stuff? I mean, you got to remember, we're doing 6L80s, 6L90s right now. We probably are producing about, I want to say about 100 a day.
So is there?
And they're going out the door.
Is there a design in what's the next breakthrough in torque converter technology then? If I'm seeing this issues around, I'm seeing people complaining about the performance of them, getting a lot of shudder through different stuff.
Well, we talked about it last week with all the recalls, with transmission recalls. What Chevy had or GM had, over half their trucks were recalled in 23. Ford had the problem. Stellantis, Dodge is having software issues. A lot of these are software related, right?
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
That's your key right there. Is a lot of it has to do with programming and software. One of the things that the manufacturers, we were just talking about this on the right before we got on air.
Yeah,
manufacturers, they're held to a standard. as much fuel efficiency as possible that they can get out of a vehicle, and economical.
Yeah.
So they want to get the RPMs down as quick as possible. So the only way to do that is to go into a lockup that gets the RPM down, and basically what happens is it overworks that converter. Okay. That has to do with the software program.
So not a bigger cooler, not putting a condenser style cooler or something in there with another fan to help bring it down.
I'm always a fan of the cooler, the better. However, nowadays with these newer vehicles, they have what's called a cooler bypass valve on them, which basically what they're doing is it's a thermostat in there. It's causing that fluid to stay in the transmission to get hot as fast as possible, and they have a heat exchanger on them. Okay. So it heats that fluid as quick as possible. If you take a cam and you drop it in oil, what's it going to do? It's going to hit that oil. It's going to go bloop.
Yep.
And then it's going to go slow. Fire that oil up. Get it as thin as possible. Then drop that cam and go straight to the bottom. Right.
That's right.
The quicker they can get those parts to move, the faster that transmission is going to move. Correct. So that's what they're doing. That's the theory behind it.
So how hot do they get?
Newer transmissions, they can get into the 220s, 230s. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, some are hitting 240. I mean, that's pretty hot.
Yeah, it's very hot. Yeah,
it's hotter than the engine.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're hitting really high temperatures. I don't personally like that heat. The bypass. I do not like that theory. However, they're putting it on vehicles for a lot of reasons. There's always a reason behind that.
Yeah.
The quicker, just like I said, the quicker the fluid can get hot, the faster it's going to get slicker, and parts can move faster.
So with Jasper gets these transmissions that have been recalled or needed to be fixed because of software issues, do you guys update the software? Do you alter the software?
No. Well, what we do is we actually, so on our 6L80, 6L90s, we actually have what's called an HP tuner, and we can eliminate the second, third, fourth lockup on the TCC, so it doesn't. So it only locks up in fifth and sixth gear.
Which is going to keep the driver's RPMs up higher a little bit.
A little bit higher. You're going to lose about, give or take, maybe a half a mile to a gallon. You won't notice it.
I would much rather have that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I would spend the gallon of gas
exactly
to get 100,000 more miles on my transmission.
So think about this, Chris. You go and you buy a car for $75,000. Okay, and in 3 years you put 75,000 miles on that truck for 3 or 4 years. Transmission goes out. I come to you as Kenny and say, "Hey, you got to spend another $9,000. I just bought this truck 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
What is going on?" That's the price of it nowadays. The price of the transmissions and engines haven't went up. It's the value of the vehicle. So, excuse me. You get a brand new vehicle. You're paying the price for the warranty. 10% is the transmission, 12% is the engine. Then you got your wheels and tires, your electronics, your leather, your all this stuff. That's how they package that price together.
Wow.
So there's always a value on it. 15, 20 years ago, we were buying cars for $20,000. That's why transmissions were only $1,400, $1,500. Does that make sense? That kind of puts it all into perspective for you.
It absolutely does.
So.
No, nobody's ever happy to come see me because they've already paid for this car. They've already bought it once. So to buy it again. They understand brakes and tires all day long. Mm-hmm. You talk about this transmission. My car's 6 years old. Mm-hmm. I've owned it for 2 years, and I had no idea. There's not a buyer beware out there for it. It's just you've got to do the research and have the knowledge.
Absolutely.
And with the web out there, there's no reason for somebody to not have that knowledge at their fingertips to be able to use it.
Yeah. A lot of people the average dude like me, I'm just an average guy,
I
you don't know all that kind of stuff.
No,
right? You kind of research it a little bit and you read up on it. Like I have my 17 Ram out there. That's my daily, right? Bought it brand new in 2017. Been driving it ever since. I think I just hit 60-something thousand miles. Never had any issues other than, typical oil changes and diff fluid and brake pad.
But let's talk about the Alfa Romeo that you just got for Marcy that you probably didn't have a lot of time to do research on because you weren't expecting to buy it.
Wasn't expecting to buy it, yeah.
So did you do research on it to see what people said consumers like about it or not?
I did.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say I did extensive research.
Right. And you're a research guy.
I am a research guy. But this was Marcy's car, my wife.
Yeah.
And I want her to have what she wants because she's in the past, she's bought things that I kind of led her towards. And then she's like, I really didn't like this, but you talked me into it.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. And so, but and we've been having issues with the Alpha. We've had it for 6 months and it's been in the shop 3 times.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
the biggest thing with these newer vehicles is maintenance. I can't stress that enough. Maintenance.
And that's one thing I do stay on top of. And everybody should. If you don't, you need to stay on top of maintenance. People, I don't have the money for this. I don't have the money for that. Like, you'd be surprised what you have the money for when you need to spend it.
Well, another thing is, we need to go back to the old days. And the reason I say that is, and you'll appreciate this, way back when you went and got your gas, pop the hood, you check the oil, right? We got to kind of get back to that, because what's happening is, manufacturers setting that limitation of oil changes, 7,500, 10,000 miles, things like that. People are driving these things. You are putting 0.40, 0.20 weight, which is nothing. If you take 1040 and you put it by 0.40, it's molasses and water.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You could melt butter and put it in your engine and get a 0.20 almost, 0.15.
Yeah. Some of that oil is evaporating because of the heat. I mean, it's going to evaporate. Yeah. Okay. Then again, the manufacturer, depending on who's building those engines, they're not torque plate honed. So what happens is you're gonna burn some of that oil. So if you're going 5,000 miles on a 4-quart system, how much oil do you think's left in that? If the manufacturer says, hey, if you burn 900 miles or you burn 1 quart per 900 or 1,200 miles, how many quarts is that low by the time you go to do the oil change?
Yeah, you're down to 1.
Yeah.
Cars don't like to starve for oil, and they don't like friction.
No.
That's a big key.
No. Yeah. Oh, well. Oh, speaking of recalls, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted to
were
talk
you going to bring up the Toyota thing?
Yeah, we wanted to talk about Toyota because they just announced, it's been a week or so, 10 days ago, that they have to recall 100,000, what is it?
Engines.
But they're the Tundras, the 2022, 2023 Tundras with the 3.4 liter turbo engine.
V6 engines.
And there's metal shrapnel. It was an assembly issue.
Okay.
Somebody didn't catch something.
Yeah.
And we just look at the numbers. Jake, we're like
100,000 engines.
A lot.
At 70 to 21 hours per technician to R&R.
Every manufacturer goes through that, guys. Chrysler. When I worked for Chrysler, we did recalls on. You probably remember this one, Chrysler Concorde LHSs.
I've got one out there.
The 2.7, the 3.2s. Those had recalls on them.
3.5s were the best motors.
3.5s were the best motors.
2.7, if we see one,
yep. 2.7, the 3.2, the 2.7. Those had issues. Chrysler had to recall those. Really? I did. Gosh, I probably replaced, I don't know. I probably replaced 20, 30 engines.
This is built into the price of a car, the knowledge that they're going to have. I mean, obviously, it's not going to kill a business, but we look at Nissan, who is, as a company, they need to borrow some money. They're going to be out of business.
So every manufacturer, has a limitation of recalls, things that they need to recall back. They put a percentage back. Okay, hey, now, don't get me wrong. They can't go, hey, well, we're expecting $2.4 billion. Typically, it's somewhere in that realm of, a $1 billion, in case there's a recall. Something's put back for that thing, those kind of things.
I think it's most surprising because coming from a manufacturer like Toyota, who's had their reputation is
TRD,
stellar, stellar reputation.
Right. Well, guys, if you remember properly, Toyota does not build overseas like they used to anymore. They build now in Mexico. And they build in the United States now because they did not want to pay that tariff tax.
Right.
So now they have that stuff over here. When you bring that stuff over here, what are you getting?
Yeah, well, you get what you pay for.
Exactly. So,
I hate that.
Toyota, but then again, that's another thing. That 3.4, I think that was a newer engine. Anytime you have a newer engine like that.
That's a fact, yeah.
Don't ever buy it first year. I mean, this is what, you kind of talk about. There's going to be issues and everything else.
Look at the Ford Bronco.
Well, Ford EcoBoost,
EcoBoost.
Yes, sir.
I mean, those have been out for a long time, though.
Yeah.
And they're having all kinds of engine issues.
The first gen was horrible. The 5.0 Coyote was just a hereditary issue, dropping valves.
What Chrysler's or Dodge's new Hurricane engine?
The Hurricane.
Which is a hunk junk. I think they got rid of the Hemis to put the Hurricane, and I think they're going back to the Hemis now.
Yeah.
Well, Hemis have proven themselves as
they're great engines.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Chrysler's going to the that Hurricane engine is going to be in the Hornet.
Oh,
Is it?
Yeah, it's going to be in the Hornet.
I don't see the Hornet being made much longer. And the Stellantis CEO got fired.
Yes.
Or stepped down. One of the two. He resigned.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So
Chrysler's always went through that though. They've always had windows. I mean, they were part of the K car. I mean, they were that was part of Chrysler.
K car? Oh, the smart car.
No, Chrysler K car.
Yeah, the
LeBaron.
Oh yeah.
Who is that?
Yeah.
Not Lecar. Who was that? God, it's right at the tip of my
Not
tongue.
Renault.
Yeah, Renault
Was
line.
it Renault?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Renault.
Yeah, Renault line.
So, they came in, they bailed Chrysler out. The K car was one of the cat's meows. Everybody drove those, And then
it was a Granada shrunk with a lot less metal.
Yeah, I wasn't going back that far in time in my mind.
No.
Yeah.
I was thinking like when they were Daimler Chrysler. And I forgot.
Well, a few years after that, then Mitsubishi. They went into cahoots with Mitsubishi on a few cars.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, this is why he's talking about Mazda, and then he says this is with Ford. You can use any whatever. So.
Yeah, Mazda's a Ford, yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, they were with Mitsubishi for a little bit of time. Then Daimler Chrysler bought them. They bought them in 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
Then they brought a lot of Mercedes engineering in.
They did.
What was it called? The Spitfire? No, the
Crossfire.
Crossfire.
Yeah.
And then the Dakota. Remember the Dakota looking?
Yeah.
The Mercedes looking Dakota?
Yep.
The Durango, the Dodge Ram, that all had German engineering.
Yeah.
So, they do that every few years.
The 3.7s and the 4.7s, which were Germany. And
Yeah. Now you got Italian engineering. Imagine being a technician at a Chrysler dealer for 45, 50 years. How much engineering do you have to know?
Yeah.
Well, so I know Ram has branched off. And they branched off quite a bit. Is their engineering still kind of keeping track with Chrysler's, or would they be a different?
No, they were actually part of Stellantis. So,
yeah, I know they are.
Yeah.
What about the Rev? The Ram Rev?
Don't know too much about that one.
What's that?
That's your extended.
Oh, the EV Ram.
Yeah, this is the EV Ram that has.
It's not an EV.
It's called e-torque. Is it e-torque?
Well, no, it's
100% electric, but they have a gas engine that
the
charges.
Hybrid. Well, it's hybrid.
They don't call it a hybrid.
Okay.
They don't.
Okay.
The engine does not connect to anything drivetrain.
Really?
It simply is there as a giant alternator.
Yep. It just charges the battery.
Oh, yeah. That's the e-torque, I believe.
Is it the e-torque?
The e-torque? I thought the e-torque was already out. That was a hybrid.
Yeah, it is. But the e-torque's that big monstrosity of something. When you open up the hood, it's right there. It almost looks like an inverter. It's huge.
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
I haven't either. So
I'm gonna try to find some pictures and I'll put it in there.
Yeah, it's pretty massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put some engineering into that.
Yeah, but it's supposed to get like 700 miles.
Yeah.
On a charge.
Yeah.
A charge and a tank.
I wonder sometimes how much an engineer goes into the new year thinking, I've got to come up with something to save my job.
I'll tell you right now, I work in the aviation industry.
Mm-hmm.
I work around a lot of engineers.
Oh, it must be painful.
There's something, and there's people at my job that are going to see this that are engineers are going to be very insulted, and I apologize. You guys are so smart, and I say it, you guys are too smart for your own good. I think there's just something innate in their brain where they're never satisfied.
Yeah.
It's not like, I have to do this, I have to do that. They cannot stop polishing a BB. Mm-hmm. They just can't do it. Mm-hmm. They just can't call good enough, man. They're just like, what if I did this? And it's just. But
do they announce it, they're these guys? Because if I ever saw a guy that designed the air conditioning system in a Cadillac go to a party and goes like, "Hey, I'm the engineer that designed," he'd get punched so fast.
So I was an aircraft mechanic for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And we said the exact same thing. Like, we're pulling parts out. I was like, I would love to meet the dude that designed this.
Yeah. Well, that's where some of the best ideas come from, because you're just like you said, polishing that BB. That BB.
Yeah.
That BB. Think about it on a bearing. Okay. We don't go in and go, well, that bearing should fit. We go to the previous year. Well, that bearing was this, and it was, we did a ID on it. Outside diameter, spec. Okay, well, that fit in there, so we're just going to use this bearing. If that guy is polishing that bearing and he gets it down to a specification and he drops it in there and goes, that fit a little bit tighter, I think I want to go with that.
I agree.
That's where some of these brilliant ideas come from.
And the world needs all kinds. I've always said that.
They do.
We need engineers as much as they frustrate me at times and frustrate other people. If it was run by people like me and Kenny, we would still be driving old cars with old tech, and we wouldn't have all these really cool things we have nowadays.
Yeah.
So,
let's talk a little bit about. I'm going to change this up a little bit and see what the correlation is through Jasper and what you all do. in tuning and testing and diagnostics. Every time I buy a Jasper engine, I put this in, and they have me do a back pressure test to verify that I don't have an issue in my exhaust system that's going to hurt the motor. Why did it hurt in the first place? Maybe that was it.
Well, a lot of people, so we kind of got away from back pressure on exhaust because, we're not a emission state, things like that. But, we put catalytic converters on vehicles for a reason. Yeah. It's to monitor, O2 or NOx, right?
Right. The premise was to lower emissions.
Correct.
That's where it started. That's what the engineer came up and said, I need to do this for the world. But then became the control devices for this, which was oxygen sensors.
Correct. And so, as we know, we do, you do muscle cars, things like that. The quicker it goes in, the quicker it goes out, the best it is for the engine, right?
NASCAR, NHRA, motorcycles, all these things, they don't have exhaust systems per se. There is no back pressure, and they're pounding out thousands of horsepower. So we know that back pressure, the myth of needing back pressure, it isn't there for the running of an engine or something like this, for horsepower, building anything else. But for emissions,
for emission purposes, it has to be there.
Matters.
It does.
Corvette's got a wastegate valve in the back of the exhaust and all this that fails and stuff. But a lot of systems have this. I just did a car the other day that had a mechanical tuning valve.
Yes.
So they're tuning valves?
That's what I'm pretty sure that's what you're getting at, is they're called tuning valves. Yeah.
Right.
So, a lot of people are getting away from, the PVC systems, the PCV system. They think, oh, you don't need a PCV valve. You got to have that.
You've got to.
So think about this: is your crankcase has to ventilate, because if it doesn't, you're running a turbocharged engine and it's not venting.
Yeah.
What happens? Your turbo fills up with water or with oil and it's not returning. Guess what you do? You blow seals in the turbo. The ventilation on an engine is critical nowadays, and people don't realize how critical it is nowadays. And I mean, we're powering everything with the turbo,
and they're gumming up and they're failing. And even before the turbos, you've got an oil leak. Well, let's check your PCV system, because if you're building up pressure, it's an air pump. It's going to go somewhere.
The 2.7 Ford EcoBoost, they had problems with the PCV system. People started putting catch cans on them. Guess what we see problems with?
Wow,
turbos. All day long, because they're not draining. They're not pulling that ventilation off. They're filling up with oil. They're blowing seals out of the oil. Out of the turbo. You can actually start a vehicle up with the turbo on and shine a light in there, and you can see it actually start dripping oil. Oh, it's just bypassing constantly.
Wow.
So those catch cans are not a good not a good solution for the 2.7.
Right. Yeah. You're sitting there noticing. Your first symptom is you're getting a lot of turbo lag, and you have no idea. But the general population, they don't know about this. It's not going to go out and do, and it's part of the service.
And another thing, they see a lot of smoke coming out the exhaust.
Yeah.
Think about that on a early morning like this. You think it's condensation, right? It's not. It's oil burning.
Right. But now synthetic fluids don't burn like we used to see the old Chrysler 3.3s going down the road. You'd know they had big valve seals. When you took off from a light, it'd be a big plume of smoke. But now that was conventional oil. Synthetic, I learned when I was arbitrating
it's cleaner.
At the auction.
Yeah, it burns cleaner.
And so you don't see the blue that you'd see. Now you have to go. I go in and I do a soot residue test through the exhaust. I can tell that you're burning oil. And
you can smell if it's oil or fuel.
There are some differential units out there that we're being told by the dealer to change them at every intervals, 15,000 miles.
Well, you got to, because the towing
so small.
Yeah, that and the towing capacity that they put on these things. So you're taking a. You know how to decode a transmission, right? Yeah. So let's do a genius one, 62TE transmission. That's going to be in your Chryslers. Your ProMaster. That is your packaging vehicle nowadays, right? Yep. Front wheel drive, passenger.
Amazon vans.
Yep. 62TE. So it's 6-speed, 2,000 pounds, transverse, electronic. That's how you break down 62TE. So they're overloading these ProMasters, and they're powering these things with these transmissions. Well, same thing with the differential. Differential shares fluid. What are they doing? They're overloading that differential as well. Differentials are supposed to be changed if people would open up their glove box and pull out that manual and actually read, you got A and B schedule.
Yeah.
Your A schedule is severe duty. We are a severe duty state in Florida.
Absolutely.
B schedule is more like a just a non-severe state. You know, that's something that's dust free. You're not on dirty roads. You're not in heat.
Missouri.
Things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So severe duty, it actually says to service a differential if you're towing every 15,000 miles.
Yeah.
Do people come into you and have differential fluid changes at 15,000 miles?
They would be angry. I mean, we just bought the car. It hasn't even broken in yet. I mean, but this is old school mentality.
Yeah. Now, if you're not towing, 30,000 miles is sufficient. However, if you're packing your camper up for the weekend and you're going over to North Georgia, you're towing that camper at 2,500 pounds, you better change that fluid, man.
Now, how about this? I've got a customer who's got a 2015 Mercedes camper, 25-footer, and they've had transmission issues. They've had this at the dealership. They've replaced it, the torque converter twice. They now are going down the road, and they brought this to me to give a, because the dealership isn't going to take care of them anymore, certainly not in warranty. And you drive down the road, and there's a bang. You notice no difference in anything. It just will bang. Not often, not under any kind of pattern. It just does.
Well, that has to do with the programming, the software. You know, that's something that we're struggling with right now across the board with a lot of manufacturers. Programming software is a huge issue. Doesn't matter what manufacturer's out there, we're having it.
All right. So much of the conversation today with you, which I love and appreciate hanging out with you and seeing you again and everything else, man. I hadn't seen Jake for a while, and we've lost touch just through my shop being so busy and life and everything catching up on what it is. But I was taking, I was heading down south to go tow in a car, and I saw the white Jasper car sitting on the side of the road, and I exactly knew who it was and what it was. I did a U. Came back. I think I upset some lady and pulled in and got to sit and talk to you for a couple minutes.
Yeah, we did.
And we
caught up. It was great.
And to get back here, I love that you're going on to a new adventure. Shelby was my rep.
Shelby's a great guy.
And then I met you. And we hooked up right away. We've done a couple shows with you, and you've always been such an informative guest. You are a plethora of knowledge. You're an asset to Jasper. If I ever got to say to any of Jake's bosses or anything else, you got a winner here. This guy is so passionate. He gives so much to his customers. You have worked so hard to get every customer the dollar's worth for their product.
Absolutely.
And for their customer.
Yep.
Warranty and everything else, because it matters.
Oh, absolutely.
So much of the conversation that we've had today has been about electronic software. I remember when COVID hit and General Motors had buttloads of Corvettes lined up and they couldn't take them off because they didn't have a chip. And we had to wait for Taiwan to build the chips.
That's right.
What is the software solution? Is Elitech?
Elitech, yeah.
Elitech. This is an independent company that does a lot of software performance data work. Who's rewriting this? Is part of the warranty to rewrite and is part of the issue that we're producing it, the manufacturers are producing it out just too quick? I would go back to the old school days again, where Ford had a road track, and they would go out and, by God, they would beat a car to death and find out what failed on it, test it before it went out in the public. And then cell phones came along and they said, hey, let's just let the public be our monkeys and do it. Where are the solutions for these? Is it in the next year's product that we hope that they're figured out?
Well, let's take a step back for a second. So let's go back to 96 pre OBD2.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Yeah.
You had a computer, but 9 times out of 10 you had crank windows.
Yeah.
Or if you had electric windows, you were the bomb. Right?
Yeah, right.
And if you had electronic windows, you had a big hammer that went up and down, right?
That's right.
With a big motor, and they never went bad.
That's right.
Regulators never went bad.
Teeth on them like this.
They would take your fingers off, and when you put your fingers in there, it would cut your fingers off.
And a spring that could pop through a wall.
Exactly. Right. It was very simplistic. All right. Now, fast forward, we got heated seats, we got auto dimming mirrors, we got body control modules, TIPA modules. We have body,
Air-conditioned seats.
air conditioned seats. We have all these modules that control everything. Okay?
Yeah, a car used to have one. And I think now we have 11.
Some
17.
vehicles can have 7 modules. You know, so think about all those modules, all the milliamps, all the voltage that's going through that. Okay, all the harnesses, all the connectors, all the wiring, all that plays a huge factor in a car nowadays.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the software has to be there because the processor, PCM, TCM, ECM, or BCM, whichever one.
Body control, transmission control, and engine control.
Yep, exactly. All of them have to be fast. They have to be a processor that is quick as our brains. Okay, so they have to have a platform that runs those, you know, whatever that software is. I'm just using, for example, I just found out that, you know, iPhone used the processor from a while back. They called it ice cream sandwich. So I don't know what it is for vehicles nowadays, but that's the processors that they use. Okay. So they have to have those platforms, and that's what makes it think and act and react. Well, you have one little glitch, one little blim, a chafed wire, an erratic signal,
a solder joint, and anything.
It can be a lot of things, you know. So
put a rat from a farm in there and you're done.
Not saying that it's all software, but that software has to be perfect.
So how about we buy a computer? The old adage was it's going to be outdated before you get it home.
Yep.
So we can install new speed. We can put a new drive in. We keep the old computer, and you can enlarge the memory and all this whatever stuff. Is there in Elitech and everything else that we talk about, is there reprogramming that's happening? So
Elitech is not going to be able to do that. Opus is not going to be able to do that. They're great programs. That is OE specified programs. We use Elitech, we use Drew remote programmers, but we also use HP tuners. HP tuner has actually gotten in where they can break the file and they can modify that file and make it better. Okay. That's where
that's a difference maker. Right?
Big time.
Does that void a warranty?
It does to a point. Okay, so if you're going in and you're programming software with an HP tuner that you're breaking into a module, or you're getting into a gateway where you're manipulating numbers, and you have a problem with the vehicle, you take it into the dealer, it's still under warranty, they're going to look at it and go, there's something wrong with the computer. What they're going to do is they're going to throw a computer at it. You're going to get the stock file back. Okay, you're not going to get the file that you put in. You put that file back in and it's corrupt, yes, you're going to have problems. And you put a corrupt file in a vehicle, and what I mean by file is just like your computer, your PC at home, or your iPad or whatever. You put a corrupt file in there and it can do a lot of damage to a vehicle. It can burn out modules, it can burn out wiring, it can burn out sensors, it can do all kinds of things. So it's very critical to a vehicle.
Yeah, I just wonder how the aftermarket, there's always been a huge car aftermarket for hoods, wheels, tires, everything. Is there going to be a bigger aftermarket in software?
HP tuners is, I'm going to tell you, in the last, probably the last year, I've really kind of leaned on HP tuners for a lot. You know, they've taught us a lot at Jasper, and I've kind of grabbed onto it and understood it a lot more.
But for the consumer?
No, because you don't know software. You're not going to want to know software. We don't. The manufacturer don't want you to know software.
It's not,
right now,
it's not for you.
Yeah.
Right now. 10, 15 years from now,
you're still the consumer.
Yeah, so they don't want you.
Just like people go in, they get a new laptop 20, 30 years ago, people couldn't modify their laptops like they do now. Future, like I'm going to get this software and I want to modify my transmission.
Well, you can do that.
I want it to lock up at 50,
you can
you can do that now.
Yeah.
However, you have to buy. So some vehicles, what you have to do is you have to go. The computers are locked, okay, by the manufacturer. Those computers have to be unlocked for you to go and manipulate it. It takes a lot of work. Takes a lot of legwork. Sometimes you got to send it in. It has to be unlocked. Then they have to send it back to you so you can do different programming on it. But with HP Tuner, they've done just certain files that do not disrupt anything else on the vehicle, that do just certain things, like that 6L80, 6L90 that locks out that converter in second, third, fourth lockup, and it only locks up in fifth and sixth. They wrote a file for that. It's been huge for that transmission. We've proven it. We know that that's going to work. It's better for the consumer. If it's going to better the consumer, that's the area we want to go into. Now, you want to delete a DPF on a diesel, That's not our ball game. We're not going to do that. That's EPA. That is standard.
Right.
You want to do that? That's on your account cord, Mr. Consumer. You do that and you get caught. That's on you.
Yeah.
You know?
EGR deletes on the diesels, the def, all these systems are changing and doing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So HP Tuner, this is a company that is global, or is it
nationwide? Yeah.
Nationwide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They started in performance and now they're going into smaller, into like the domestic vehicles.
a stock I should look into?
Hey, I'm going to tell you what, it's really
Right.
nice.
I mean, the way you talk about them,
Yeah.
it really
HP,
seems like
as soon as you say HP, I think of the laptop.
Yeah,
Hewlett
HP.
Packard.
Yeah, no, yeah, Hewlett Packard. Yeah, no, this is HP Tuner. Really neat design. It's just a little device you plug in. App, you can do it by your phone, via phone or via laptop.
Yeah.
You go onto their website. It's got credit that you got to buy to go in. Sometimes they have preloaded files. So if you were trying to do a fuel saver on your vehicle, they have a preloaded file in there. You can upload it, buy credit, upload that, and it'll make fuel efficiency a little
meaning
bit
that
better.
if there was enough demand for it, they've gone ahead and written a card that just
absolutely.
because it's going to become a standard quote to do.
It's very similar to, like, I have a Harley, and Harley Davidsons do this. You can buy a tuner for your Harley. They have a lot of set maps.
That's it.
Go in and map it.
It's just like a
and
map.
then you can
Yeah.
go alter those maps. If they say, I want a different AFR at this RPM, and I want this and I want that. And you can do that all on your phone.
Well, then
Harley has a what's that called? A CVO?
Yes.
And they do a compensator package where they put that compensator on there and that manipulates it.
Yep.
That's the same thing.
Yep.
HP Tuner's they're not manipulating it, but they're putting a different file in there saying, hey, if we did this is not, hurting anything, but it's getting better fuel economy this way. So go ahead and put this file in and see
I
how
can see
it
that
works.
growing in popularity.
Yeah, why wouldn't it behoove
For sure.
the dealerships the manufacturers to create an update card that you would just...
And that's what Harley does, right? So Screaming Eagle, if you buy their tuner,
Yeah.
that's the only one you can buy that won't void your warranty.
Yeah.
So you buy their Screaming Eagle tuner, and then you can go play with all your stuff, right?
Yeah.
But if you go buy a tuner from somebody else, another aftermarket, now your warranty's voided.
Yeah.
For your engine, obviously other warranties
Right.
will be okay, but your engine's going to be voided.
So-
So I could see that with like GM, Ford. You need these guys like, hey, you want to play with your stuff? Here's a tuner. You buy it from us. If you use anything else, we're going to void your warranty.
Well,
but
those have always been out there. I mean, you think about it. If you buy a Stage 2 kit for a Mustang, they're going to give you a different ECU. That's going to be unlocked.
fair.
That's going to have
fair.
that's going to have a different chip in it.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. So they've always been out there. GM's got one. GM Performance. When you go to a crate, crate engine that you want a performance side.
Yeah.
They're going to sell you a different ECU with a harness that's going to have a different chip in it.
Yeah.
They're out there. They're just doing it in a different way.
Yeah.
They're kind of controlling it and regulating it. And they've tested those things, and there's nothing wrong with that. It needs to be regulated and mandated. I mean, you can't, if we let the consumer do too much and know too much, they get in trouble. We have a lot of burn up cars sitting on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So there's a reason. There's a reason behind it that it's got to be regulated for some reason.
Where are you on the table of EVs?
Don't like it. Don't think it's going anywhere. I think that, think about this in reality. And I'm not knocking any Tesla guys out there.
No. We have a
anything
good
like that.
rapport with them. We talk
of course,
a lot
it's
about
coming
it.
from the Jasper.
Yeah.
Wow.
But your Tesla breaks down and you called AAA. What's going out there to come get you? It's going to be a gas engine with a gas generator to come fix your tire. Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing as the tow truck to come pick it up when the battery goes dead.
Yep.
It's going to be a diesel or a gas engine. Hybrids, I think, are here to stay.
I love the hybrid.
I think they're
fan.
great. I think
Bryce is a big fan.
EV is not going to take up
true.
so much of the market. I think we're only going to see maybe about a 10 to 15%, maybe 20% of the market. That's about it.
Yeah.
There's not enough savings out there. How do I tell you that to go buy, and again, I'm not knocking the Ford guys, but go buy a Ford Lightning. Go put your bass boat behind it and go live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Go through the mountains. By the time you get to the lake, you got to charge that truck, and then you got to charge it when you get home.
Right.
How much electricity have you used, and how much money have you saved?
Right.
Think about that.
Right. Right.
You know, or if you're going on a trip with the family and you're going to Indiana, 900-mile trip. If it gets 400 miles, how many times do you got to stop to charge that thing?
Right. And at a charge time, now they're advancing charge times and everything
Absolutely.
else. However, you're still spending 45 minutes to an hour and a half or 3 hours.
Sure.
Sometimes even a little bit longer if
Sure.
you've got an older one. EVs to me, it's the cost of that battery that is killing these cars. At 60 or 80 or even 100,000 miles, you've still got wear items, tires, brakes, suspensions, all these things. You're putting money back into that. You're going to go buy a $15,000 battery on a car that's got 80,000 miles. It's got a resale value of about 15,000. It's not happening. You're junking that car.
Well, another thing is the infrastructure as well. I mean, we didn't think about the
But you
infrastructure.
can plug them in anywhere. There's electricity everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on.
That's true. But you know,
That's
hey,
what I hear.
we only have so much on the grid at one time that we can, power.
Right, but California's got to figure out they're going to let the odd numbers charge on Tuesdays, Thursdays.
yeah.
Right? Okay, so no, we could go on, but you're with the general consensus, the masses that
It's
just
not going to be here to stay.
I agree with the 10% because that, like I said, I've always said there's a place for them.
Yep.
The place is the commuter car, the
Yeah.
guy who just goes back and forth to work, girl
Yes.
goes back and forth to work every day, Monday through Friday, plugging it at home in the
Yeah.
night. You can do that.
Your accountant that goes 10 miles down the road to
Yeah.
the
Yep.
office and 10 miles
You're
home.
still living in the
Go
same
ahead,
town.
plug it in.
That's
Yeah,
perfect car for them.
So then we get
Perfect
into
car.
the conspiracy part where they say that this is what EVs are made to do. Let's get people that live in Orlando, that work in Orlando,
15-minute cities.
and cut down 15-minute cities.
Well, this is where us as Americans need to understand and read between the lines too. When somebody walks in to buy a vehicle, you get the single mother, 2 kids. She's looking for a vehicle. Doesn't have a lot of money. Don't try to don't try to put her in an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
Because she's going to and from school. She's going to go to the grocery store. She's got to go to mom's house. She's got to go here. She's got to go there. She's going to do all these trips thinking that she's have a fuel saver vehicle.
Yeah.
That should be against me personally. That should be against the law to try to sell her one of those vehicles.
Love that.
Because that's hurting her. That's not helping her.
Great thought process.
You know?
Especially like, you live in an apartment that you can't charge your vehicle overnight.
There you go.
Oh.
Prime example. Now she's got to go sit at Target at 10 o'clock at night to go charge
Right.
it.
Yep.
And she's a single mom with 2 kids.
Right.
Come on, man. That's not safe.
No.
And I'm not saying
So
that it's
no.
safe here, but wherever.
It's great.
You don't want that.
No.
If that was my sister, my wife, I wouldn't want that.
Absolutely not.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely not.
No, I mean, my daughter, she's in the military. She's in Colorado right now. She's pregnant.
Yeah, your daughter.
She's
Yeah.
pregnant. So with my grandchild, right? And she lives in an apartment.
Yeah.
And
So an
Why
EV
would
is not
you-
an
I
I want
option.
her outside charging a car at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Oh, I gotta
and they
get
don't
to
do
work.
so well in the cold,
Right.
as we've
Yeah,
seen. And
yeah.
she's in Colorado.
Yeah.
It's been snowing since before
Yeah, there you go.
Halloween. So
Yeah.
no, I don't. To your point, I agree. It depends on the person.
Yeah,
it
I agree.
Depends on how you drive, your all the other stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, if somebody buys an electric vehicle, there needs to be, I guess, a survey that needs to be filled out. Where they say, okay, well, how much do you commute?
Do you
how
have a
much do
second
you know
car?
about this?
Do you have a second car?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, yeah, then you can have one. You have a
Well,
second
you
car.
work for the
What's
trouble
your
tree or
income?
something, and do you live in the town where you drive? Yes or no? And then it goes down, and it would split down as a trouble tree and give you that basic consensus
But
of what's
it's
smart
sad
enough.
that you shouldn't have to babysit adults to make these decisions, right? But
then again, you got to think about it as this has killed us, guys. This right here. This has killed us.
Oh yeah,
This has killed society.
Information at your fingertips, and we're
This has
dumber.
killed society, and we think we're going to be so much smarter, and we're not.
No,
you know,
it's handicapped.
we forgot books.
crippled us.
We forgot books.
What's your mom's phone number?
What's that?
What's your mom's phone number?
Oh gosh,
Do you remember it?
Right.
yeah.
I don't know
think
that I know my mom. Right.
I don't think I do.
I remember my phone number growing up.
I
I
do
remember
too.
my phone number growing up.
I do too.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
funny. 632-8772.
Yeah, 321-2442. Yeah. That's crazy. That's
nuts.
Those aren't good numbers now. So right on. All right. Well, anything else? I mean, we talked the death out of you.
No, man. It's always a pleasure to be
I
on the
enjoyed
show.
it, man. I'm really glad
Yeah.
you came by. I like to
Yeah.
get the
Thank
insider. I tell the audience all the time, we're not insiders.
Yeah.
We're not. We're just two guys that like to. We're some good old boys in Florida that like to, BS around a car hood. So it's really nice to get an insider.
And let me tell you about Jasper,
info.
Indiana. Is that there are tours.
Yes.
And if you plan it right, maybe you even get a little bit
Factory tour, yeah.
extra on that.
Are you going to
But-
be okay with the cold?
So I'm going to put a little caveat on that. So I did talk to you about this. I am
Yes.
leaving.
Yes.
I'm going to live in Indiana.
Yep.
I'm going to work at our factory.
Yeah.
And going to be on the engineering team there. Well, they call it the engineering team. I'm not an engineer by no means. I don't have the degree, but
However.
I have the background, and it's going to be it's very humbling. I don't know anything about cold weather. I don't know anything about snow. I don't know nothing about ice. I'm a Florida boy. I was born in Tennessee,
Oh, my
but
goodness.
I've been here all my life. So it's a learning experience for me, 100%. But I am very thankful for the company I work for and to give me this opportunity.
I'll
So
tell you that
gonna have
when I moved to Illinois,
it's
I
another
drove,
feather in the hat.
I drove a Subaru, and I went into a corner and I hit the brakes and I continued straight. So when you're in a corner, don't hit your brakes,
Yeah.
because I understand that at that point the slush takes over
Yeah.
and sends you down.
First time me driving in the snow, I was 19 years old. First base in the military was Germany. And it was dark, black ice. Heard of it, never seen it,
Yeah.
because you don't really see it. Anyway, doing exactly that. There's curvy. I was in the hills in Germany, right? And go to left and going around this wavy,
Don't worry about it.
all right, wavy road. And somebody's calling us. Our fans are calling. And there's little pickets every so often, right? And I'm going down this hill. And I just keep going straight. I'm turning the wheel left. Keep going straight. And I'm like, I'm going in the ditch. I'm like, missed the post. And I did. I missed the post. So that was good.
Boy, yeah. A lot of people are like, are you ready for this? And I'm like, no, but I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 43 years old. I've never been out of Florida. I mean, I think I've seen snow one time in my life, and I think I was 35 years old. Very, very just quick,
Right.
just like a little flurry.
Right.
But
Man, you're in for
I'm excited.
We're going to have to take a tour up there when he's there.
Well,
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I wanted to extend that out. When you guys come up there, please make sure you look me up.
Yeah.
And make sure you get to the new product development side and come in and say hi to me.
Well, I told you this summer I got up to Newcastle, Indiana, and was right down the road from it. But I've never done it. I want to do it. I think it is something that we would thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I will be there. It's a year's worth of training. It's not something that I'm going to jump right into.
Right.
I got to learn. Our database, or how our programs work and our things like that at our factory. I got to learn our processes.
A year's worth of training, though.
Oh, yeah.
Jake, that is a tremendous thing for them to want.
That's a lot of investment.
That's a lot of investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you put a guy, look, AutoZone, they're going to hire you. You get 3 days of training, and you're on the floor.
Our company looks at it like this. If they're going to make an investment to put me in that area, what they want to do is they want to make sure that I know my job 100% from front to back, inside and out.
Well, going through this show, I would say that you know your job 100%, but now your job's changing a bit.
Absolutely it is. It's changing 100%.
But a year, Jake, a year.
Yeah.
It's exciting,
You could
man.
learn.
Yeah.
You could learn to fly to the moon in a year.
Yeah.
That's a commitment
Yeah.
from them. That
Yeah.
shows the quality of the company.
Yeah.
Because I do go in here and I do say, hey, listen, the Jasper engine's $5,400. Yep, same warranty as the company that can sell it to you a little bit cheaper. Why buy Jasper? You got time to talk? Because there's such a difference in you all.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, we care. It's all about our people, our commitment to our customer service,
Your sales team on the
commitment
phone.
to our customer success. So
everybody.
those are our three unique factors.
Yeah, if you're worried about, they're putting a year's worth of training into somebody
Who's already got the knowledge.
Yeah.
Of
absolutely.
Jasper.
So I mean,
Right.
talk about caring about your customer. They care enough to spend that kind of money on their
Own employees. Yeah.
And this is somebody that you won't talk to customers anymore.
I'm not. I have
blame you.
I'm gonna miss it.
Well, how many
I really
miles did
am.
you say you drive a year?
Oh gosh,
I mean, we're 75,000 miles.
close. Probably about 60 to 70,000 a year.
That's
Can you
insane.
think? I mean, he lives in his car.
That's insane.
Yeah, that is insane.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But then again, I'm doing 300-400 miles a day. So,
Yeah.
do the math on that. So, and sometimes I do work, sometimes I'm in Georgia, on a Friday at 6 o'clock. I am not going to drive all the way home. I'm going to stay the night. Then I'm going to drive home. So, it happens. It's got, but it's got its goods and its bads. Sales reps are not always like that. So it's not something that you always have to do, but, I was I had a big territory I was covering, and
you were,
and there's a lot. We have a great team. Our team's made up of 6 guys. They're very good. They work all of Florida, Southern Georgia. Everybody's plotted out. My job was basically to look over that team and be there for support.
Yeah.
Plus, I had my job being a rep. So you play that role, and it takes you places.
Right. So. Well, congratulations on the promotion all the way.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you, and I'm never going to lose contact with you or anything else. Everybody, I guess I want to say I appreciate you all for tuning in and coming back. As always, share this, like this, leave a comment. You got a question for anything that you've heard, anything off of Jake, get it to us. We'll review it with him and get back to you on it, as we always do. So with that, Jake, I love you and wish you the best of everything else to the whole family and everything else.
Hey, big shout out here in Vero Beach and Sebastian, Charlie Service, Kirk's, Diesel Power Pro, Kenny at Dolphin Auto. You guys are great.
Yeah, you've got the Rockstar Automotive.
Yeah, Rockstar
great
Automotive.
People, man,
yeah.
building some great
they're in Melbourne.
and cars.
TG's transmission
stuff.
over there
Tomas,
in Sebastian.
Tomas is great.
Tomas, yeah.
Right,
great
so
guy.
many of them. So, yeah, awesome. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. As I said, this American Car Classics radio program. Keep it live.
Yeehaw.